Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the RDH Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Chad, joined by me with, thought I was wearing the slicker kit today, but I guess not if you're watching on YouTube. My brother Tanner, how's it hanging there, man?
I gotta bring it out. I gotta bring the old United jersey out because it's the beginning of the Premier League season. I'm excited. United started 1-0. I watched some of the game yesterday. It was okay. Some controversy, but that's fine. They got the win. Supporting my team. You're supporting your team. I'm just hanging out. I'm ready to talk some football though.
Oh yeah, today we are talking NFL contracts, preseason, and we got some news to hit too. So let's just jump right into this.
Yep.
There's a lot that's happened since last time we had our episode. So we're gonna jump into it. The horse that I've been beating for so long in this podcast, Dalvin Cook, finally he is signed, and also I did call it, and I called the Jets a
Yeah.
couple months ago. Is all I got to say. If you listen to the episode, so that's all I'm saying. But what do you think about this contract? It's 1 year. It's up to 9 million. What do you think about it? 8-9 million range. What are your thoughts initially? Because I have so many questions.
Honestly, I think it's a steal, an absolute steal. I mean, you look at the running back market right now, and it's nowhere near where that deal is. That deal is massively basically underpaying him. It's a 1 year deal, so that's kind of what the NFL tends to do with those things. But you get Dalvin Cook for a year on a low salary. I mean, he's basically just like non-existent on the cap, right? And then he's going to add a huge impact in the running back game. So I love the move. I think it makes a ton of sense. You give Aaron Rodgers a veteran running back, and you just see where it goes.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to, right? Because
Yeah.
he comes from the Green Bay Packers of, Aaron Jones, who's arguably one of the biggest veterans around the entire league right now.
Hmm.
The man literally brought a PlayStation when his wife was in labor. By the way, that's been I saw that on Twitter. It's like impressive, dude. But anyway, he's used to that. Aaron Rodgers is used to that, right? And you have Dalvin Cook who comes in from Kirk Cousins, and I don't think he's lost a step. I've said it a bunch. You know what I mean? Tanner said it a lot too. So I also think it's a steal. But my question is, what is his role? Because you have a rookie Brees Hall that you can argue you're not arguing. You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
pretty obvious. You're gonna break into his production, and there's no way Dalvin Cook's gonna be a running back too. So to me, it's a running back duo situation exactly like he had in Green Bay.
Yeah, I I think so. I mean, when he was in Minnesota with what is his name, Alexander Madison, I think.
Yeah.
He it was more like a 60-40 more Dalvin Cook percentage than like Alexander Madison. So I mean I think he's going to keep that ratio. I think it's going to be the same. I think he's going to be the running back number one, like you said, and I think Brees Hall he's going to get a lot of good looks though. That's not saying though that I don't think they're eliminating them being on the field at the same time because both of them are playmakers. I think they can absolutely be on the field at the same time, run different routes, and I mean, Aaron Rodgers is going to pick the better target at the end of the day. I trust him. I think he's going to do it well. It, it's hard to see a world where that doesn't succeed, especially with that much talent in the backfield.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the day, too, with Aaron Rodgers there, I mean, and let's not go crazy with the Jets' talent, right? Let's not go crazy with the Jets' talent. They have Garrett Wilson, who's really good, and then other than that, they don't necessarily have a number two guy. So I do agree with you. I do think that they're going to have a lot of two running back sets in the backfield. Dalvin Cook can catch the ball coming out of the backfield, and so can Brees Hall. So,
Mm-hmm.
and both of them on the field too. Brees Hall, like we've been saying, would have won Offensive Rookie of the Year, but instead it went to his counterpart with Garrett Wilson. So I don't know, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a pretty hard situation to not be a Jets fan and go, oh my goodness. But if you're a fantasy fan, Brees Hall and Dalvin Cook's stock just went way down. You know what I mean? Because that is a literal 60-40 situation, like you said. But last question I have about this specific contract, and then we'll move on to another contract that we saw. Does this make them a for sure playoff team? Can you really look at this roster now and say this team isn't going to make the playoffs?
I thought about it coming in. I was like, I'm thinking about this exact same question like yesterday, last night when it happened, and I'm just I think I have to put them in the playoffs. I have to. Like, I have to think that they're a playoff team. I have to expect them to make it, like over, let's say, like whoever else is going to play for those wild card spots, like Miami, Baltimore. We've done our predictions. Those are kind of the teams that seem to find themselves in that spot. The Chargers, maybe even
Yeah,
the
maybe the
Broncos.
Chargers,
So
depending. Yeah.
depending on if they're good or not this year. So it's like I think so. Out of all those like wild card teams, I think they can beat a lot of them, and I think that they are better than a lot of them. We'll see what happens during the season, but I think the Jets are probably a front runner for a wild card spot.
I think they have to be.
Mm-hmm.
I really think they have to be a front runner for that wild card spot. If not, now getting very close to competing for, if not winning that division. I know it's crazy to
That'd be
say, but
crazy.
they now get really close. I mean, arguably have a top five quarterback still,
Mm-hmm.
and you arguably still have a top five running back. And if you look at the defensive side of the ball, we haven't even started talking about the Jets defense. The Jets have a nasty defense,
Very good.
especially their defensive line and some fast linebackers. And oh, by the way, arguably top five cornerback duo, right? And the best corner in the league, arguably. You know what I mean? Like they have some dogs on that team, and everybody's young, but at the same time, they have veteran players in key positions. And there's not a better team and not a better set of veterans than, I mean, in what world did you think that Dalvin Cook and Aaron Rodgers would end up on the Jets last season? This is a literal, like, Madden drop today. You know what I mean? If you decided to spend $99 and get the deluxe edition, not I. And how, it's a Madden game. How do
Yeah.
you literally have Dalvin Cook and Aaron Rodgers on the same team, and then you have Garrett Wilson, and you have Aaron Rodgers guy with Randall Cobb, and he's going to develop rapport with everybody, and everybody else in that receiving corps is pretty young as well. So it's a win situation on a team that needed just a little bit more. And Aaron Rodgers freed up about $20 million in salary cap, right? He freed up about $20 million with that contract. Here goes 8 to 9 of it. What's the rest? Where's the rest going to go? You know what I mean? Who else do they have to go out there and sign? There are still some really good free agents that are still out there on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if they need all the help, but on the the offensive side of the ball too, there's still some guys. So who knows what the Jets are going to do, because now they have money to play with, and $12 million, they can make that up after next season. So they're going to definitely spend it, unless there's somebody that they're trying to extend already. But this team is primed for a playoff push, like we've been saying. Now, a contract that hits a little bit closer to home, Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott has officially been signed by the Patriots, about a $6 million. There it is. There it is. About a $6 million, a year deal, and it's good to see Zeke get signed. Because I really didn't know if he was going to. The fact that he got signed before Dalvin. Did he get signed before Dalvin Cook? No. Right after Dalvin Cook, right?
Right around the same time.
I think it was right around the same time. I think I think he broke before, or at least I saw it on Twitter before. So, Zeke gets signed to New England. They have Ramondre Stevenson there. You also have no clue who they're going to come in and play. Zeke could not even play for 4 games. You know what I mean? That's just how the New England Patriots are. But the fact that they went out and signed him to $7 million a year almost, that tells me that he's going to be, if not their one, probably their two. And Ramondre Stevenson is a very, very reliable back too. And I'm glad I don't have the New England Patriots running backs, Ramondre Stevenson, but that's another running back by committee situation.
I think so. I mean, it's weird because I thought Ramondre Stevenson was a pretty good back this past year. I didn't really think the Patriots needed to go out and get Zeke, but maybe they're just looking for like the pass protection element. Maybe they're looking for like the the Zeke blocking kind of element of it. He's a big red zone guy. That's what he can do in this point in his career. He's not going to break one away from 50 yards. But what he can do is he can plow into the end zone, and he can block incoming linebackers and maybe sometimes even bigger guys, But I think that's kind of what they're using him for. The same way Dallas used him, because there's no way he's going to be their running back one. I would assume Ramondre Stevenson is still, the lead guy. I think Zeke will come in and take some reps off him every once in a while. Maybe in like a a third down and short, fourth down and short situation. You get Zeke out there. Maybe he's like a lead blocker. Maybe he plays like a fullback role just fully. And I don't know. He seems like it works there. I mean, the Patriots are taking a chance on him. I love the guy. I wanted him to stay in Dallas, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what he does.
It will be. And, to be honest, now I understand why he didn't stay in Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
I totally understand it with that contract. Dallas can't afford to pay Zeke 6.5. You know what I mean? They can't afford it even if he was nice enough to restructure, you know what I mean, and all that. He there was no way that Dallas could keep him for that the price. So you see him go. New England has some salary cap left. They bring him in. Like you said, I'm not sure if they necessarily needed another running back because they drafted some as well, and they also have some young backs on there. And like I said, they're so running back by committee anyway. But it's like, Ramondre Stevenson, if he does get hurt, you never want to say that, but if he does get hurt, or say, the Patriots make the playoffs, I don't think it's going to happen. But if for some reason they have a playoff run toward the end of the season, Zeke becomes not only reliable but almost necessary, right? Because he comes in as that running back number 2, and at crunch time he knows. In crunch time he delivers. Pretty much every single situation Zeke delivers in crunch time. When you need a couple yards, he gets that every time, right? Like he gets that literally every single time. So that's kind of my situation with Zeke, and what he brings to a team. Like you said, a fullback role. I never thought about that, but at the same time, there's one guy in the NFL that would pay a fullback $7 million a year, and that's Bill Belichick. So, I could see him using that in that role. Zeke's not going to go out and catch passes, I don't think. I think maybe a screen every now and then, but I think he adds a level to Mac Jones that Dallas is now missing. If the left tackle, if the right tackle misses his guy, Zeke isn't necessarily going to block the guy, but Dak knew every single time that Zeke was going to put his body on the line and give Dak that split more seconds so that he could get rid of the ball, right?
Yeah.
And Zeke's going to bring that to a young quarterback like Mac Jones. Hey, who knows what the quarterback controversy going on in New England right now after their preseason game? We're not going to get into that this episode, but that's all a young quarterback need. Not all, but that's a piece that can help him a lot, right? Ramondre Stevenson is a great running back. Definitely a running back 1, like you said, but he's not is football IQ. It's not the same as the level of Zeke is in terms of blocking, right? He brings a lot to the table that Zeke doesn't bring to the table at this point in his career. But Zeke going to that team is not only a good thing, I think it's a great thing. I just don't like the price tag. I think that if Dalvin Cook got paid, 8 to 9 million, Zeke gets paid 6 to 7. I get $2 million drop off, but the most I would pay for Zeke would be 5. No disrespect to Zeke, but that's the most I would pay for Zeke. 1 year, $5 million, prove it, knowing I'm probably not going to sign him next season. And it sucks because, in the running back age, now you're seeing it. You're seeing these running backs get signed for 6, 7 million, and you have 2 running backs that are just a 2-headed monster. The Packers have already done it, right? Now the Patriots doing it, and we named another team that's doing it as well with the Jets. So this is another running back duo team, right? Ramondre Stevenson, Zeke Elliott, that's 1A, 1B, And like you said, last point on Zeke is he's a guy that's going to, in the red zone, is perfect. Short yardage situations, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, where the defensive tackles are bunching up and the defensive ends are almost bunching up too. You know what's going to happen. It's a cold afternoon in Foxborough. You know what I mean? Zeke comes out on the field. A couple fans, drunk fans in the side are doing this already because everybody knows that that's what he's doing, right? And he gets the 1 or 2 every single time, unless it gets blown up, which it does happen. Especially that's a pretty good conference, but I think it's a really good move, and I think that he's going to be very, very necessary. But Ramondre Stevenson, he was a great flex player last season. Great flex player. Not anymore. Not anymore. I don't even know if he's draftable at this point. I know he's running back 1, but if Zeke gets hot, are you telling me Belichick's not going to go with him? Come
on. He might. I mean, another thing to consider too is, surprisingly, that offense kind of has like a lack of veteran leadership, and I think Zeke will bring a lot of leadership to that, not only that running back room, but just the offense as a whole. Because one, he's been there, he's done that, he's been in the league for a long time, and I think he can teach Ramondre Stevenson some things, and hopefully he can even teach Mac Jones some things. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. I want to see Zeke succeed. That's the thing about this. I want to see him succeed in New England. I want to see that he still has it, even if it's just a little bit. I want to see him getting touchdowns on Sundays. I want to see him do stuff still, because I think he's still got a little bit of it. I don't think he's as terrible as everyone might think because he's slow. Don't get me wrong. He has some wear and tear on him, but he can still hit you and it can still hurt. That's the end of the line.
100%. And a guy that's willing to put his body on the line, and a young quarterback that knows that his blind side now has just that little bit extra time, like I was saying, goes a world away. Not everybody has the football IQ of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not throwing behind his back when a guy's in front of him and behind him. You know what I mean? Mac Jones there is like, he needs that extra second because those receivers getting off the line aren't necessarily getting off the line that fast these past couple seasons. Anyway, last contract we're hitting, and then we're gonna hit some preseason. Ooh, we got some good preseason stuff coming, but last contract. Once again, if you listen to the show, you know what's going to happen. Zach Martin was extended.
It happened.
If you listen,
Go.
you know what's going to happen. It's going 2 years. Got it. He's here. He's back. He's going to be on the field. He's not getting fined 50 or 500K a day, something crazy a day for not being there. The relationship is good, hopefully, and now. Dak Prescott has no excuses.
Yep.
You saw and do you want me to be 100% honest? I don't think the decision was made up until that first preseason game happened. Because if you watch that preseason game, the Cowboys' offensive line quite literally looked like a bunch of third graders out there. They got absolutely bullied the entire game. Nobody looked good on that offensive line. Not a single person. Now, nobody played. Like, no starters played. Offensive line-wise, pretty much offense. Like, no starters pretty much played. Really, if you think about it, not really anybody in terms of starters played on the offense. I do think some guys could have, done some pretty good things out there. I think a lot of guys could have used those reps. I understand why Dallas didn't play, CeeDee Lamb. I would have liked to see Dak out there for just one drive maybe, but at the same time, you don't want to hurt your quarterback that early in the season, so I get it. But guys like CeeDee, guys like Dak, I get the whole offensive line. Tyron Smith, I get. Zach Martin wasn't there, but what? Terrence Steele? Biotish? What? What do you mean these guys aren't playing? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, I think that these guys need to play. No disrespect to them, but they're still on their rookie contract. They haven't proved to me that they're going to be here for the next 10 years. I need to see a lot more. They're both great players, and the scouting department's nailed them so far, but to not play them in the preseason, they need reps. They absolutely need reps. And I get our defensive line's good, but at the same time, you got to give these guys reps, right?
100%. I think you even missed out on one. I think the most important offensive lineman going into this next year is, Tyler Smith, the rookie we drafted, not this past year, but the one before. He's supposed to be our future franchise left tackle after Tyron goes away, and I didn't see him get any reps. Did you?
Nope.
So I don't know. It's confusing. Hopefully, it's just that first preseason game where they just kind of get the rookies out there. They kind of get everyone. They want to see what they got in their draft class. Maybe that's what they're doing. And then games 2 and 3, they'll hopefully start working in starters. In game 3, absolutely, they need to play at least like a quarter, or at least a couple drives, because I don't want to step out on that field on Sunday night, against the Giants and just lay an absolute goose egg, because their defensive line is very good. And if our offensive line hasn't practiced or played in any preseason games or hasn't, gotten any real on the field experience reps, they're gonna look like clowns out there, because
Yeah.
New York's gonna take it to you. They're not a bad team, especially not defensively, So it's a little frustrating, if you're a Cowboys fan, to not see them play, especially when you see over in Bears country, you saw Justin Fields and DJ Moore albeit they only played like 3-4 snaps together. I mean, the dude had like 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. Justin Fields did. It was a preseason game, but they're getting reps. You know, they're unsure about their quarterback situation. They're unsure about that situation. Why isn't Dallas doing the same thing with their offensive line situation? You know, I think it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It really doesn't.
Yeah, unless there was injuries or something that I was unaware of, right? That's the only, you know, me, I didn't do my research on that part, right? I haven't seen any injury updates. I get every update, so maybe missed an injury update, but I don't think I missed 3 injury updates. You know what I mean? And I, like I said, I completely understand with Tyrone Smith. He doesn't need to play a preseason game. He's been playing in the league since he was 20 years old, right? He doesn't need to be there. Zach Martin, same thing, doesn't need to be there. Everybody else needs to be there. Everybody else needs to play, and we don't have Ezekiel Elliott. You know, we need Tony Pollard. That's another one that you need to not. You know, I don't think you need to play him at all. Not necessarily not at all, but you need to give him a couple drives to get him into game speed. Not game 1, maybe not game 2, but maybe game 3, right? So we'll see what happens is that if he's ready, and we'll see what happens as the preseason, you know, goes along. But the Zach Martin contract situation, getting back to that, that was something that the Cowboys needed to do. And if they didn't do, you know, go listen to the past 2 podcasts where Tanner and I both ranted about what was going to happen if we didn't have Zach Martin back, right? Like, if you're a fan of the Dallas Cowboys, you know what's going to happen. You know how important he is as a player. So glad that he's back. Glad especially he's back as a Cowboy and, you know, for a couple more years. Now, jumping to the next thing we're going to talk about. This is why I wanted to jump to this, because we already started talking about the Cowboys. So now I know we're going to get into it a lot more here. Here is the biggest preseason headline right now. And once again, I'm gonna beat this drum the whole episode. If you listen to the pod, you would have known who Deuce was 3 months ago when I was talking about him. Just saying. That's the guy. That was the guy. Deuce, baby. Deuce Vaughn.
Deuces.
Has he done enough? I know it's 1 game, but has he done enough to warrant a conversation for running back 2 of the Dallas Cowboys?
Yes, I think absolutely. I think if you watched him in that preseason game, it kind of looked like he was playing against college players. You know,
Can I say it? Can I say it? Every Eagles fan's gonna hate me. Darren Sproles. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a nice comparison. I don't think it's a bad comparison.
It's eerily similar.
It is. I think you see that, especially we saw it in that preseason game. He's making cuts. He's moving very fast, and he's going downhill, and he is cutting hard, and he is getting defenders to bite hard. And it's not. Don't get me wrong. Like these preseason guys, they're not. You know, Jacksonville's,
these are 3rd, 4th string.
They're not their first string offense or defense. But if he's still doing this against NFL caliber athletes in a preseason game, in his first preseason game ever, I would give him a shot. I would absolutely continue to play him through the preseason, and if he continues to do this, 100%. Let him play on Sundays. Let him play on Thursday nights. Like, come on.
Exactly, and you just made it right to another point that I was going to bring up. Who is the other running back on the Dallas Cowboys who got that shot? Running back number 1, Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
He got that shot too. That's exactly what happened. When you play the hand, you continue to play the hand, right? Deuce is not going to be running back 1. There's no way this season that he becomes running back 1 unless he is running back 2 and Tony Pollard gets hurt, which we hope doesn't happen. Deuce, I think, has warranted absolutely enough to be in the running back 2 conversation, especially with Ronald Jones getting, you know, popped for PEDs, and the starting running back for the Cowboys did nothing. Did absolutely nothing the whole game. Nobody else on the offensive side of the ball, aside from the quarterback play for a couple drives, looked good. Really, nobody really looked that great on the offensive side of the ball. I did like what I saw out of, you know, tight end play for the Cowboys. I really liked the tight end play. They looked really good when they needed to, but overall the offense was completely stale. And then Deuce Vaughn came in the game and completely turned it on its head. Yeah. And Tanner and I always talk about it. Some guys just have that. Some guys just have that thing. And right now, it is 1 game. Is this an overreaction? Probably. You know what I mean? But to be fair, we're also talking about a running back 2. We're not overreacting that hard. We're just
That's true.
Stupid football fans who are couch warriors on Sundays. You know what I mean? That's who we are. And when you have a guy that comes in like Deuce that does that, Tony Pollard also does that, right? Some of these 2 running back sets in the NFL right now do that. right? That's nasty, man. That's absolutely nasty. Now, what you're obviously missing, and what everybody who's listening is going to say right now is, well, where's your power back? Well, he's suspended for 2 games. That's the guy that's going to come in. Ronald Jones is not necessarily a power back, but if you watch how they used him in Tampa Bay, he was a bowling ball. He ran that way. You know what I mean? He ran straight. He ran right down your throat. You knew exactly what was going to happen, and he's running right down your throat. So short yardage situations, that's it. But at the same time, I watched Deuce Vaughn make 2 guys miss behind the line, and then juked out, and then literally cut and juked, went right to left, a linebacker. This was all within a yard, and he made 3 guys miss. That doesn't happen. Not even in the preseason, stuff like that doesn't happen, but it did. You know what I mean? So sorry, some of those guys probably got cut that game because of that play specifically, but dude, that's a fun player to have on your offense. And not only did he step up to the moment, he now gave Dallas a, hey, you are not starting me in the second half of the next preseason game. I'm going half one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going half one, and I'm going running back number 2 next. And if he does it again, then it's going to be close. Then it's going to be really close for him in the start of the season. But he has to continue to elevate his play every single preseason game. So has he done? Notice the whole time I'm saying the conversation. I'm not saying he's won it outright yet. The conversation. It's 1 game. Got a couple more to go. But man, being the number 1 preseason headline right now, that feels good, and I hope he continues it. You got anything else to add on Deuce Vaughn, Tanner?
I just think it's from like a mental standpoint. Like if you keep putting this kid in and you start giving him more and more reps in the preseason, regardless of what happens, I think he's just going to get better and better and better. I mean, especially if he keeps making plays, he's going to get more confident, and he's going to start, to be like, hey, I can do this thing. I can absolutely be number 2 behind Tony Pollard. And if Tony Pollard's not ready to go for day 1, I mean, if Deuce has been playing that well, I don't see an option where you don't give him the starting spot. If let's say he plays well in all 3 of his preseason games, Tony Pollard's not ready to go, and the other running backs haven't shown you anything yet. I mean, you got someone right there that you drafted. Maybe he's a gem. At that point, you're like, let's give him a shot. I'm a believer in giving him a shot, especially on a Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, pretty much what's probably going to take up a majority of this episode, the last big preseason headline that we have, and we've been talking about this kid a lot because I've done a major scouting dive on him, and we're gonna jump into it. The Indianapolis Colts, named Anthony Richardson, the quarterback they drafted out of Florida, as their starting quarterback week 1. Now, pause. I am going to pull up Anthony Richardson's stats from college real quick, just so I can prove a point before I start to ask you these questions, Tanner.
Okay.
So you ready for this? Here is his collegiate stats. First of all, he has 22 total collegiate games. Okay? 22 total. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those games where he has not completed literally attempted 10 passes. Okay? So 8 of those games he hasn't even completed 10 passes, which means he's not on the field, right? Mm-hmm. He's a second stringer coming in. He's a package guy coming in. He's not the starter. Okay? Now, we'll jump to his last season where he has majority of his play. His freshman year, real quick, his freshman year, he had 1 touchdown and 3 rushes for 42 yards. His sophomore year at Florida wasn't a whole lot more. Okay? Wasn't a whole lot more. He had a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. A total of 7 games, and only had 6 touchdowns. So he didn't have a ton there. He did have 2 100-yard games, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns his sophomore year. But still, not a ton of production his freshman and sophomore year, which is why You see him his freshman year, he only had the 3 games. Then he jumped up a little bit on his next season in his sophomore year. Total his junior year. This is his whole career. Ready? He has 215 completions out of 393 attempts. That is a completion percentage of 54.7%.
That's a little rough.
54.7%. You want close to 60, if not 60% coming in. So that's keep that one in mind. He has 3,100 passing yards. Not bad. Not bad, because majority of those came in his last season. So not bad. Over 3,000 passing yards, or actually no, over about 2,800 passing yards his last season. Not too bad, but still not the best, right? 15 interceptions to 24 touchdowns. That is not a good touchdown to interception ratio. That's a very bad touchdown to interception ratio. But you say, come on, what about his rushing? Okay, you're right. I forgot out a whole part of his game. He has 161 attempts for 1,116 yards.
That's over his
Not
career.
bad. Over his whole career. Okay. That is average 6.9 yards a carry. That's pretty solid, especially in the SEC. That's pretty solid. But only 12 rushing touchdowns his entire career. And he had 3 in his sophomore season. So he had 9 his last season. So you could say about 1 a game, which is not too bad, right? But no. Dive into the stats just a little bit more because of course I do that, right? He had 3 rushing touchdowns in the very first game against Utah. Okay? He had 2 rushing touchdowns against Tennessee. Not bad. Not bad. LSU, 1. Texas A&M, he had 2. Then his last rushing touchdown was against South Carolina. So he did it against some decent opponents, but A&M was he couldn't find anything last season. They couldn't find anything. They didn't know what to do. The football team had no clue what was going on. This year, oh man, let's hope so. We're right. A&M's ranked 24 coming in. But anyway, back to Anthony Richardson. That's not the best college career if you think about it. So I just wanted to say those stats for our listeners. And for you, Tanner, before I ask you this question, does this do anything? Does this do anything for them? Does this put them in contention to be above 500 this season? Naming Anthony Richardson this early on.
I don't think so. I'm not understanding why, and this comes from your line of thought because it's sound logic. You know, why would you put a guy who doesn't have a lot of experience, especially in like a professional style offense, especially just playing football at a high level period? I don't know why you would name him the starter so quickly, you know, because as you said with those stats, he didn't play almost at all his freshman year. He played a little bit his sophomore year, and his junior year, you know, is the year that he kind of broke out a little bit. But even then, it wasn't that much. You know, you don't see like this consistency over a career, which is what you want in an NFL quarterback, right? So it's a little troublesome and it's a little worrying, you know, because you don't know what you're going to get. Especially, I mean, his competition isn't much, but I think they have like Gardner Minshew, Sam Ehlinger, and they're not bad quarterbacks at all. You know, Gardner Minshew, he's put together a lot of really great games. I've seen him play in the NFL, and I've seen him succeed more than a couple times in the NFL. So I'm assuming something happened in camp. You know, I'm assuming he's having like a good camp. I'm assuming they're really liking what they're seeing, and they want to give him a shot, and they want to see what he can do in preseason. Either that, or they just absolutely don't believe in Gardner Minshew or Sam Ehlinger at all.
And they want to put asses in seats.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't make a lot of sense because you have two philosophies, right? You got like the Green Bay Packers where they have their franchise quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, right? And then they go and draft a first-round quarterback, you know, who's going to be his replacement, and they let him sit for 4 years. And then you have the Indianapolis Colts, who are just like a carousel of quarterbacks that just come in and go out, and they're just kind of throwing things on the wall, seeing if they stick, which is kind of what they're doing with all these guys. It doesn't look like they're giving Anthony Richardson like a big like time to succeed. You know what I mean? Like it kind of feels like Zach Wilson all over again.
And the thing is too is what the point that I bring up and the reason that I get jumped on a little bit when I say it to sit here. Patrick Mahomes didn't play his first year.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready. He was not ready. And the numbers I just read you, 54% completion percentage, 3,100 yards, 2,800 of those yards coming his last season. That and not only are you leveling up, you're leveling up big time. Anthony Richardson, his hardest games he's played Georgia twice. That you can argue is literally NFL games. You can argue Georgia is NFL games. You can argue LSU and Texas A&M's atmosphere is NFL atmosphere, if not more atmosphere than the NFL. Actually, in my opinion, it's more. There's no way it's anywhere close to as loud as Kyle Field or Death Valley at LSU. But still, he's played some big games, and he's played decent against Georgia. He's lost both games. The first time he played him, he played horrible. His sophomore year, his junior year, he played a little bit better. He had 271 yards and a touchdown. He also had 11, rushes for only 19 yards. So he didn't do a lot on the ground because of how good that team is. And you saw he had to rely on his arm there. And, when you see the completion percentage in that game, 18 for 37. That's less than 50%. That's against Georgia. And then when he played against them his sophomore year, he was 12 for 20. That was 60% completion percentage. That's what you want to see. But at the same time, he didn't even break 100 yards. He had 82 yards. So I think it is way too early for this kid. And if he goes out there and proves me wrong, absolutely. And yes, he had a combine better than Lamar Jackson. Yes, he did. And Lamar Jackson, you can argue, had worse accuracy coming out of Louisville. But at the same time, Lamar had more games. Lamar played Clemson. You know what I mean? He played Clemson when Clemson was Clemson. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? He's played. I'm not saying Anthony Richardson. He's played against the SEC. He's playing against the best, division in college football, or best conference in college football. But he only really did for one season.
Yeah.
And now he's going up against the NFL. And guess what? You got a couple guards on that line. Jonathan Taylor, for some reason, is not going to be there probably. And you have Michael Pittman to throw the ball to in terms of wide receiver one. Your defense is pretty decent. They're decent, but at the same time, I wouldn't give them the nod to be one of the best in the league. I'd give them potential to be top 10 at absolute best. But I feel so bad for him. But at the same time, he's a starting quarterback. He got drafted in the first round, and it's the Colts. So they clearly don't have a lot of faith, like you said, in Gardner Minshew. Sam Ehlinger, they pulled the plug on him like a game or two games, you know what I mean? It's scary. If you're a Colts fan, this is extremely scary. And I also wouldn't say this year you can judge him just yet. I wouldn't say you can write him off after this season because he doesn't have a lot of help. And if the Colts were smart, there's a really good wide receiver that's probably not going to go number one. That's probably going to go like 3, named Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State. Next season. Pair him up with Anthony Richardson and let Michael Pittman also get a little bit and have a 1A, 1B situation. But right now, I don't think the Colts are going to win that division. I don't think that this put them on top to win the division. I think the Jags are going to win the division. I think Houston and Indianapolis games are going to be games that I'm going to want to watch. Usually I don't want to watch those games. Usually if that's the game on, I'd, find another one that's on. But you got 2 rookie quarterbacks going against each other now against, Houston. So that's going to be fun. But still, I don't know, man. I don't necessarily agree with that pick. But at the same time, he did have a better combine than Lamar.
Yeah.
And your other option is Gardner Minshew and Sam Ehlinger, no disrespect, but I do think it gives you a better chance to win than those guys. So if that's the argument, I understand it, but I think he needs to work on his accuracy a lot. I think he needs to get this game speed up a lot. Even if he does well in preseason, I want to make sure he's going against every single starting unit on that defensive side of the ball. A lot of times the defensive ends don't play. You know what I mean? So last game, DeMarcus Lawrence and Micah Parsons didn't even play. Some of the defensive tackles didn't even play too for the Cowboys. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if you can necessarily give him it. He had a pretty solid preseason game, but I don't know if you can give him the starting nod already. I would have at least waited till the end of the preseason to see what he's done, like you said.
Hmm.
But any last notes on Anthony Richardson?
I mean, the thing about just like coming in as a starting quarterback in the NFL, um, it if you like are coming in out the gate as the starting quarterback, a lot of times it doesn't work immediately. You know, you see it sometimes happen. Joe Burrow has like a pretty decent first starting season. He gets injured, whatever. Trevor Lawrence comes in. He has some issues with his coaching staff and stuff like that. He has not a great season, whatever. You know, Patrick Mahomes, like you said, he sits out for his first year, and then he develops his arm. He comes out back in his first season and he does pretty well. And Josh Allen, you know, he comes out. He's supposed to be the savior of that franchise. It takes a while, but he continuously gets better and better and better. You know, again, like Lamar Jackson, he comes out. He doesn't have a great first season. It's not bad. It looks like, you know, they can do something with him, but it's not going to be like the end all be all if you just immediately throw him in there. You know, there's some, like I said, some really bad cases where it happens. You know, Zach Wilson, right? They throw him in there. He's just not ready. You know, I mean, I don't know if you've watched that Johnny Manziel documentary. Johnny Manziel, like he came in there. Obviously, there's a lot of other issues, but it's just it's a lot of the NFL is it's like a monster to these guys. You know, you got to tame the monster, and I don't know if he can do that yet. I'm very curious to see if he continues to play well in preseason. You know, sure, why not? Give it to him. Let's see what he can do. But I agree. I think he needs more time. I think it happens with a lot of quarterbacks. They just get put in too early, and then they have terrible games. Their confidence gets shot, and then they don't play as well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And last point, on the Anthony Richardson thing is definitely not knocking the player. You know what I mean? Love the player. Absolutely. I get the first round grade. His hype, I wouldn't have taken him that high, but at the same time, I think he's going to be a special player. I'm just not sure. I would have put him in this early. Now, and you can also say, when looking back at the games, you know, he really has only had like 14 games. And even then, you can kind of poke holes in those games too and bring it down a little bit less in terms of season. Mitchell Trubisky is another really, really good
Yeah.
similarity. Another one that's really similar to that situation. So I necessarily wouldn't have done it, but at the same time, he could give them the best option to win. Now, when you think about that, like 14 NCAA games in 3 years, that's not great. Lamar coming out of college was 57% completion percentage, so not is worse as Anthony Richardson, but still he had 38 games, 38 full games. I may add you, not like 14, 38. And Lamar also had 9,000 passing yards and 69 touchdowns to 27 interceptions and over 4,000 rushing yards with 50 touchdowns. So that's in 3 seasons. They played the same number of seasons, freshman, sophomore, junior, and they went to the draft. I don't know. Anthony Richardson got taken a lot earlier than Lamar Jackson. I get he had a better combine, but I mean, come on. You know what I mean? I don't know. And Lamar went into a situation where that offense completely changed. And you can argue he had a number one guy. He had Mark Andrews.
Yes.
You know what I mean? He had Mark Andrews from the rip. That guy, you could just throw the ball to him and he'd go. You know what I mean? Anthony Richardson in the open field is fun. He's fun to watch. And if you have him in fantasy and you're going to really go in there and try to take your league by storm, you got a dynasty league, I understand it. I wouldn't start him, but I understand it. You know what I mean? I'd maybe wait till next season. You watch his over just collegiately, you watch his rushing games, and they're not consistent every single game. Neither are his passing games. Neither are his big games against big opponents, which is another thing I like to see. Which, once again, if you listened to the episodes, just RDH Sports on YouTube or Spotify, we go way in depth with these draft, every single one of these players with these draft guys. If you want to check out the articles, they're on rdhsports.net. We have a ton of them for the draft. We'll do more each year. But this is a player that's very exciting. I don't think he's ready to start, but hey, let's let the Anthony Richardson hype trade start going.
I just want to know what Gardner Minshew did to deserve this, man. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like let's like take a look at his like resume. Like when he played for I think Jacksonville a little while back, and he
Yeah.
played pretty well. You know, he was a good
Yeah.
he was their starter for a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Stuff happened, whatever. He didn't have the great game, the best games, but he eventually makes his way to Philadelphia this past year, and I remember that game where he stepped in for Jalen Hurts and he put up like 45 points or something like that. I mean, he looked really good with that offense. You know, granted that offense is just really good, but it amazes me that they're just kind of like not taking a chance on him. You know, because I like Gardner Minshew. I don't think he's a terrible quarterback at all. So it really amazes me to see that they're just completely going right in on Anthony Richardson.
Yeah. Too early, too late. Definitely not too late. Too early, we'll see. Right? We're
Yeah, I
gonna
don't
see
know.
what's gonna happen. That's that's it for the actual NFL talk. But I got a curveball for you, Tanner. I got to ask you one more question because
Okay, I'm ready.
at the beginning of the episode, you almost gave it up. What I was going to talk about, I almost jumped into it right off the rip. A little bit of soccer, technically still football.
Okay.
I just want to throw a scenario at you. Here's what I'm thinking. I wore the PSG jersey. That's a soccer team I root for. Neymar went.
Oh yeah.
Neymar's gone now. Neymar is gone for I think around like 300 million. Something crazy. Something insane in terms of contract. Something crazy, right? Mbappe's back all of a sudden in training. Does the Mbappe saga with a Neymar and Messi departure mean that he stays?
I don't know. Mbappe has been talking about leaving PSG for a long time, and it just kind of feels like he just keeps like just like darting out of it every single time it like actually comes up to being paid, and when time to put up the money, he just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll stay at PSG. So it's really weird that he just keeps coming back and back and back. But the thing is, he's not having bad seasons though at PSG when he comes back and back and back. So
He's the best player in the world aside from Holland last year.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I think maybe the departure of Messi and Neymar is just like a silver lining, or maybe it's like a blessing in disguise. You know, maybe Mbappe's going to go out and have the best season you've ever had. He's going to lead him to a Champions League all by himself. He doesn't need anybody. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Mbappe he's like he doesn't make sense to me.
I don't understand it. I mean, he has I think the biggest contract in history right now in terms of MLS contract. I know that Neymar's got something crazy in terms of 300 million, but like I don't think we're counting those technically in the transfer because that league is just going crazy right now. But with that contract and everything, like you said, he's not performing every year. He's the best player, number one or number two in the world every year. You can have an argument for, right? You can have an argument for he's the best player, if not number one, maybe number two in the world, for sure top five in the world, and he just keeps staying there. As a PSG fan, I absolutely love it, right? I never want Mbappe to leave. This is an old Mbappe jersey, right when he first got here from AS Monaco. So obviously, I'm glad he is the player that's stuck it out all of these years and has continued to stay. The big thing with me being a PSG fan is, yeah, Neymar had some great games at PSG. Had over 150 goals, you know what I mean? But every year in the Champions League, he was injured. In terms of Champions League play, to get eliminated from not being able to go back on and being the Champions League winner, which PSG has never done, by the way, he never played in one. He never played in an elimination game Champions League. He got injured or he was already injured. So I'm not like I don't really mind the Neymar departure. Do I use him on FIFA every single year? Is he one of my favorite players? Yes, absolutely. Was I stoked when PSG got him? Yes, absolutely. Did I think we were going to win a Champions League with him and with Neymar and Messi and Mbappe? Yes, absolutely. But it's never panned out. And PSG has gone after a lot of not lower name guys. Don't want to say that to sound rude, you know what I mean? But they're not a name like Messi or Mbappe or Neymar. So I'm interested to see what happens this season for PSG, and I'm also interested to see if Mbappe's there, because he's not under contract right now, to the best of my knowledge. So I don't know if he's going to stay, if he's going to go, but I just wanted to throw that in because something that's that crazy, in terms of money wise, like now you have the money to pay Mbappe. I don't know if they would have not had the money to pay Mbappe before, but if you got to pay Mbappe, which obviously you got to, and I think he wants to stay. I think he's made that clear. You know, 300 million ain't a bad way to start. Like I think that'll pretty much cover it. You know what I mean? I think you could just give that contract to Mbappe and just be like, all right, so stay here for like 8 years, and then it's like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's gonna happen, right? I don't even know if Mbappe is gonna be there next year. I want Mbappe to win one selfishly as a PSG fan when I'm still there because, like I said, I've been watching him since he was at AS Monaco. But the Neymar saga, the Messi saga is now over, and I wouldn't be a PSG fan if I didn't have to call that out, at least on the podcast. We are RDH Sports, not just RDH Football. But that's pretty much the end of what I got. You got anything else sports wise, Tanner? Or are we good to kick this thing?
No. I think I'm good.
Good way to end it. All right, folks. We'll catch you next week for more sports talk.
Bye.